All right. We are here talking on God with my friend David. And today, David, I would like to talk about sacrifice. Does God require sacrifice? And what I mean by that, well, whatever you think that means, really. Like, is there anything inherently bad out there that we should give up? Like there's all kinds of sources that will swear up and down and bet their whole life that drugs, sex, and money and fame are all bad, and you know giving up your life and giving to the church or giving to the poor or all these things are good, and that's without saying. And then
Is this your question, or are you asking for everybody else?
I'm asking for everybody else. I have no questions, and I have all the questions. That's every time.
All right. So the first thing that comes to mind is God doesn't require anything of us. All that God requires of us is to be. And God, by require to me indicates this is something he expects. And if he doesn't get it, there'll be some withdrawal of his love, right? So I don't think God requires anything of us. Just us being is fulfilling the purpose of him extending himself out as us.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of that?
Well, it's lovely.
So I don't think God requires anything of us, but I think we require things of ourselves, right? So if we are a piece of God, which is a very high vibration, you could say it's divine love, unconditional love, then I think anything less than that will result in some level of discomfort for us.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's not that God requires it of us, but I think we require it of ourselves in order to feel the best we could possibly feel.
Mm-hmm.
So even so, you're completely free to feel as miserable as you want.
Good to have that freedom.
Yeah, you're free to basically make any choices you want. But the thing is, then the further the choices are in lower scale of vibration, the more unpleasant it begins to feel for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So now, if we rephrase it, is sacrifice required of ourselves in order to feel as much joy and love and peace as possible? Yeah. But really, the sacrifice, what are you required to sacrifice?
Well, what is sacrifice? What does that even mean?
Well, so I think sacrifice is restricting that which you desire.
Mm.
Right? So I was talking to somebody the other day because I thought a lot about free will for a long time, trying to solve that puzzle. And what I've come to the conclusion is the only way you can have true free will is to be free.
Mm-hmm.
Completely free of all your delusions, all your desires, all your fears, right? All your misunderstandings, because any choice made from any level of delusion is not free. In a sense, you're still slave to your misunderstandings. So a lot of times what people mean by free will is they want to be free to pursue their enslavement, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I want the freedom to pursue whatever your particular favorite form of enslavement is, whether it's drugs or hatred or lust or materialism. You want to be free to pursue the thing that's enslaving you the most. Because
Yeah.
if you truly had free will, you would choose divine love always. Because when you're truly free, you're free of all your delusions and incorrect patterns, and then you would be expressing your divinity perfectly, and divinity expressed perfectly would be always divine love.
That's really funny.
Isn't that funny?
I'm free. I'm free. What are you going to do with your freedom? I'm going to be in my fear, in my current favorite misunderstandings and
Yeah,
what to desire.
whether it be
It's going
sex
to be
or
wonderful.
power or whatever it is, you want to be
That's
free,
it.
free to pursue your pet enslavement,
Right.
right? So then if you talk about sacrifice, what are you sacrificing? You're sacrificing your enslavements,
Mm.
right? So what your true self is asking of you is to sacrifice your enslavements in order to be free.
Yeah. And so you in that line of thinking, then sacrifice, true sacrifice is really impossible because you can't give up what you always have and who you always are and who you can never
Well,
not be.
so you're saying true sacrifice, you're saying true in terms of your eternal self.
Correct.
So then you could say, from that perspective, there is no sacrifice required because you're not expected to ever sacrifice who you truly are. You ask of yourself to sacrifice who you're not.
Mm.
So what Baba had said, he had said that the concept of animal sacrifice was a misunderstanding by some of the ancients. He said the true requirement of animal sacrifice is to sacrifice your animal tendencies.
That makes more sense.
On the fire of wisdom and devotion to your true self or a piece of God. He goes, God has never asked you to sacrifice poor little animals in order for you to evolve. That's ridiculous.
That sounds, it's like a comic strip that you're watching.
Yeah,
You're
sure.
like,
But I mean,
sacrifice your animal tendencies. Got it. Bring in the oxen.
right? God
No,
said
that's
third,
not what
and
we said.
you heard bird, right? And it turned into turd, right? So it's like, okay, all right, this is completely misunderstood.
Right.
So by sacrificing your lower nature, I guess you could say, or your misunderstandings or human animal tendencies, then you begin to experience your true self more and more. So you can say, sacrifice your animal tendencies on the altar of wisdom and devotion to the Creator, and it's pleasing to God as your true nature. Your true nature is pleased as you get rid of your selfishness, then more of your love can shine. As you get rid of your fears, you can begin to operate from love. As you get rid of your misunderstandings of who you are and what this is about, then you can attune more and more to your higher self and start being free.
Mm.
So all true sacrifice is doing is freeing you from the chains that bind you, your slaveries, your bondages. That's the only sacrifice you require of yourself. I don't think God requires it. He wants us all to be joyful and return in frequency back to him, but he doesn't require it.
Mm.
Doesn't require it. You can be as miserable as you want to be for as long as you want.
That's it. You can have 100% of your misery guaranteed back. No questions asked.
Yeah, so we'll use a fairly dramatic example. Let's just say you're heroin addicted and your family knows who you used to be, and they see the horrible human being you've become because of your heroin addiction, and they want you to give up heroin so you can reclaim a happy life, right? It's like, no, 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 I'll give you all up. I'll give up everything before I give up heroin.
Right.
Well, that's kind of an analogy. You can say that your high self is calling you back to the joy and peace and bliss of who you are. And it's asking you to give up the heroine of all your misunderstandings and your fears and your attachments, because it knows, it remembers who you are and knows that you're just a decrepit, shallow representation of your true nature. So it's not that God asks it. I think all God says is, I extend a piece of myself into creation to experience all aspects of creation. It's as that lady, I forgot her name. You from back with Danny
Dennison.
Dennison. Yeah. She said God extended himself from himself. He's already knows everything, but he hasn't experienced everything. So by extending himself out as these rays of himself, he has a chance to start experiencing infinite variations of life as us, right? So the only requirement is being fulfilled by you just being and existing and experiencing. But like I said, I think because our true nature is divinity, we, at a deep level, and I think this is what calls us all eventually home, is when we're not vibrating at a high frequency, we just feel like we don't feel happy, or we feel lost, or we feel like we haven't found our purpose, or we feel, like you're just wandering around in the darkness. And as you begin to raise your frequency, let's just say you start to practice a little bit of loving service, and that really feels good. It feels good, right? So you do a little more and you feel even better. So it's the part of you that remembers who you are. As you start to raise frequency, you go, yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking for, and you just follow that. It eventually leads you home. But if it's like, yeah, I think in order to be happy, I got to be famous or rich, or have a huge house and a lot of property, and go ahead and pursue it.
Yeah.
And I've yet to see anybody that wealth scratches or fame scratches that itch. If anything, it just gets more intense.
Right.
Until they turn their wealth and fame into loving service, and then it's like they've come home, and then they start to, everything else starts to fall behind that, and that becomes their goal in life.
I've been practicing I guess a mantra, whatever, every day. It's been a little bit different, but the idea behind it is, through my forgiveness, which is letting go of all these ideas of who I think I am or what I think I want. Through letting those go, I get a chance to experience my sinlessness, experience my defenselessness, as in the part of me that could never defend itself because there's nothing to defend. I get to experience my peace. Like, a part of me is at perfect peace right now and in perfect joy. And as I kind of in my mind go there and let go all those things that's obviously not at peace, and obviously not it's not defenseless, it's defending the crap out of it, right? I guess everybody, it brings me into this different awareness, and the resonance is raising, my frequency is raising, and it reminds me of your exercise of who am I that is perfect love, and
Right.
that, and then on and on.
Yeah, so it's just another way of raising frequency. But Baba's technique, and the only mantra he ever gave, is I am God, I am God, I am no different from God. And I told you I found the variant given by David Icke, I am infinite consciousness having a human experience. And I like that, because the problem with God, saying the word God, it's so tainted with my misunderstandings that it creates some resistance for me. I say I am infinite consciousness having a human experience, or I'm infinite love, right? So that's the opposite of, it's the same flip side of saying, who am I that is love everywhere, right? That then is calling the subconscious and superconscious to answer with feeling, right? So you can do it in the affirmative by saying, I am infinite consciousness having a human experience. And if you say that a few times, the frequency embedded in that is tremendous.
Mm.
And what, in my opinion, this is the highest technique that cuts through everything.
Mm-hmm.
What you're doing is you're just raising your frequency. And as you raise your frequency and you feel expansion of consciousness, it leaves all the other patterns and all that other stuff behind. I think we talked about it. It reminds me of like the 5 tasks of Hercules. It might be 6, so I don't know. I'm just roughly remembering it. And they're all impossible tasks, but he accomplished them all by basically cheating. Like, so for example, there was the horse stalls of King so-and-so, and I guess it was like 10,000 horses or whatever. He had to clean them out. Well, by the time you're done cleaning out the first 100, the other 9,000, 900 horses are pooping away. You can never accomplish it. So what did he do? He diverted the nearby river into the stalls and just washed them all out. So I think that's symbolic of trying to free ourselves from all the accumulated crap and patterns that we've accumulated in conscious and subconscious mind through many, many lifetimes. Yeah, it's just the harder you work at it, there's always, you maybe start helping one and then another one gets worse, and you start to work on that, and then another one gets worse, or you get a new one, right? Whereas the technique of just raising your frequency, I am infinite consciousness, having a David experience. You say that a few times and feel the energy embedded in it. And for me, it's just like takes the top of my head off, right?
Mm.
Just start feeling that expansion of consciousness at a high frequency. And then once you start to feel that expansion, then quit talking and just put your awareness into that feeling of expansion, or who am I, or I am infinite love, having a human experience, or I'm infinite peace, right? Those are all different words to describe aspects of divinity that we can experience.
Mm-hmm.
Slightly different characteristics, but they're all very, very high frequency.
Mm.
You just try that. David Icke said, you do that for 2 weeks, he goes, you'll never be the same. And I think that's true. Because it's exactly what my teacher said. It's the only mantra he ever gave. And I think the brilliance of it is it's diverting that river and starts to wash out all the manure at once. So once you start to feel that feeling of that expanded consciousness, high vibratory, as my teacher would say, sacred feelings, then now you can just tap right into it faster and faster. Then the trick is to try to hold it through the day. Right? So when you feel that expansion, then just get into beingness. Feeling that feeling of just that joy, that silence, that quietude, that just expansion of consciousness, and just hold it through the day best you can, and operate from that to the best of your ability. Right? So what'll happen then, as Jesus said, he said, you speak from the abundance of your heart. So basically what he says heart is you're tuning your consciousness. So when your heart is attuned to that high frequency, you speak from that, right? So you're a little more patient and understanding and loving with everybody, right? You're just speaking and acting from that. Just as when you're aggravated and you're speaking and acting from your aggravation, it's a lower frequency. You're shorter tempered with people. You don't have the love, you don't have the patience. So this is cutting directly to the chase of not trying to clear out all the horse manure, but just raise frequency.
Right. Well, and that horse manure is using the same thinking that created the problem too. And being the impossible task is, it's like, in my mind, it's stepping out of the constraints. You're not like saying, I'm not trying to get rich and famous faster. I'm trying to go beyond anything that needs to be rich and famous, and remember, or draw or align myself in frequency to the part of me that's already content. There has no need for this
Exactly.
idea of fame, and it's already there. That's the thing that is so incredible. It's already here, but I got to let go.
You already are.
I got to let go thinking I need to sweep out the stall one by one.
Well, think of being out on the ocean, right? You go, okay, I'm on the ocean. Well, how about if you dive down 5 feet? Oh, it's different. How about if you go down 5,000 feet? It's way different. Well, how about if you go above the ocean, right? So they're all dramatically different depending on the altitude, right? The up and down. So to me, that's a good analogy for frequency. As you shift your frequency, you have a dramatically different reality. So conversely, you can think of people that are just in low frequency all the time, whether they're fearful or angry or resentful. They're walking around in hell all the time. They're operating from hell, and everything they say, think, and do reflects that. Right. So let's just say you're 10 feet under the ocean and you're tired of drowning. So you're going to try to drain the ocean. Right. Start bailing, taking buckets and scooping the ocean. Good luck.
Right.
You can just get on a rope that'll pull you 10 feet above the ocean. Oh my God, it's a completely different story. Right. So that's what I realized was Baba's shortcut method is rather than trying to clean out the horse stalls, which you could say are symbolic of our conscious and subconscious minds that are operating from patterns, that may be less than ideal, that we've accumulated over many, many, many lifetimes, right? So I spent the first half of my life trying to fix those patterns. It just got nowhere. It was like an elastic band. You pull real hard here, it snaps you over there. With Baba's technique of just raise your consciousness, I am infinite consciousness. I'm infinite love, having a human experience, and you just feel the frequency embedded in those words. And for me, and I think really for anybody that actually does it, you'll start to feel that expansion of your consciousness. Right? And then, so once you start to feel that expansion, that experiencing those sacred feelings, as my teacher would call them, then quit saying the words and just be in it. So for me, it feels a lot like you've been in a little tiny bird cage your whole life, and it's like all of a sudden the door opens, you get to fly out in the room a little bit. It's like, oh, this is nice. Then it's like, okay, get back in the cage. It's like, no.
Well, let's look at the converse of that very same thing. What is it that keeps us in the cage even after we can see the light, so to speak, outside the door, and people hold on to that little perch that in the dark cage?
So I think to a great degree, we're tremendously driven by how you feel, right? So I spent a long part of my life just very, very comfortable in the a kind of a moody, vaguely self-pitying feeling that was very comfortable. It's like having friends that are just, they're just horrible friends, but you're used to them. You know how to be around them, right? So you're not going to give those up because, well, these are my friends. But maybe you meet a group of people, they're amazing, they're fun, they're funny, they're eating good food, they're healthy, and you just have a wonderful day with them, right? Now you go back to your old friends, it's like, yeah, I'll see you guys later. I'm going back to these other guys, right? So I think if it's an intellectual choice, it may not be clear, but when you begin to experience some peace, even a little bit of joy and a little bit of that feeling of love, it's like, yeah, this is better. So it's not really an intellectual choice. I think it's based on feeling. So
yeah,
that's the big thing. You got to first kind of feel it a little bit. So now you have a choice. Until you feel it, it's just an intellectual exercise. It's like, why should I go through all this work? I'm fairly, my life's fairly good.
Well, and it goes back to what we're sacrificing too, because for me, many years I did not progress or really forgive these things that bound me because I was scared to release them because I thought God was going to be mad at me
Yeah.
for any kind of change, right? Reading the wrong book, thinking the wrong thing, all that stuff. And I kept myself in the cage, so to speak.
Well, we all have some sort of chain that's bound us, but like I said, I think the best way to draw somebody out of that is if you can help them experience a little bit of being out of the cage for a little while. And of course, they might experience for a little while and just decide they want to go back to the cage. Well, that's fine.
That's fine. Yeah, that's right.
Fine.
Because there's no real destination to get to, and
There's no place to get to.
no one's getting saved. We're all good.
Yeah, you can experience that as long as you want.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, you can experience as long as you want. Far be it from me to take your misery away from you.
I know. Don't boss me around.
Yeah, right. I'll offer, and if you're ready, you'll take me up on it. But if you're not ready, you won't. So it's like, okay, well, I'll see you maybe in another 20 lives down the road. We'll try it again.
Jesus.
Right. Bob had said, he goes, listen, he goes, I have moved heaven and earth to bring you to me. He says, this is your opportunity that may not come for another 10,000 lifetimes.
Oh man.
Yeah. But I mean, that's how it is. The infinite creator will bring you the opportunity to get out of the cage at some form. I mean, maybe it's just cracking the door open a little bit, right? Maybe that's all you're ready for. And if you take it, then another opportunity for a larger cage or getting out for a while will be presented. But if you don't take it, then it's like, okay, well, go ahead and suffer for a while. You're still not motivated.
No problem.
Yeah,
Which, it's interesting, that very thing, because I could actually suffer and be in my own cage because someone else is suffering from being in their cage.
Oh, yeah. You go, oh, man,
I'd be happy if you were free.
Yeah, it's like, well, your cage is far worse than mine, so I feel freer than you, so I feel better.
Yeah,
that's it. I mean, that's it. It's when you're no longer content with your life that, it's Yogananda used to say, he said, very few people seek God for God. Most people have to get beaten half to death by life before they start seeking something else. It's almost like they have to get to the point where I just can't take this anymore. There's got to be a better way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can't say that I was any different, but I was born in this lifetime seeking God and being miserable. So it really wasn't until I started to understand all this that's been the end of most of my misery. Pretty happy most of the time,
Yeah.
Pretty happy.
That's good.
And I'm pretty greedy about it. I want more happiness.
So let's wrap it up, David. Any final thoughts on the sacrifice that God requires?
Yeah, God doesn't require anything. I mean, God just loves you completely. Nothing was required other than that you're a piece of him, and that's given, and that's eternal. That'll always be. So just forget about that and just say, am I happy with how I'm living my life? Am I happy with that? If you're not happy with that, then maybe you're requiring a little sacrifice. So try to sacrifice a little bit of your hatreds, your fears, your selfishness, right? And so the simple way to do that without getting lost in some other labyrinth there is just a little bit of loving service. And one of the easiest ways to do that is just treat others the way you wish to be treated. If you see somebody miserable, just ask yourself, if I was that freaking miserable, would I want somebody to come over and just maybe talk to me a little bit? Yeah, I would. All right, well, go do it. Right? You got 2 sandwiches and the guy sitting next to you, he doesn't have any at all. Just, all right, just offer him maybe half of one sandwich. Or baby steps. Too far out of your comfort zone. But don't do it as a martyr. Do it as derive the happiness of knowing that he's a little less hungry today. Okay, so I'm not as stuffed as I like to be, but I feel good about that. I made this person's day a little bit better, and that made me feel good. So it just starts that simple. But once you start to get a taste of higher vibratory frequency,
Mhm.
operating out of love and kindness and forgiveness, then it starts to gain some momentum as you find your misery starts to disappear.
Mhm.
That's it. You just start where you are. You don't have to become Mother Teresa or Gandhi and wear a loincloth and starve yourself half to death. just a little bit, sacrifice a little bit of your crap. You know, animal sacrifice on the altar of divinity within you, and you'll feel the joy of it as God within you goes, yes, yes, yes. And God within you smiles, and you feel that smile is a little bit of more happiness. Right. So that's it. It's just simple, start small. Don't go crazy. Right. Don't sell everything you have and give it to the poor and live on the streets. Give that a couple of months before you go for that.
I know.
Start wherever
That's
you are.
funny.
And God will bring to you opportunities. If you're sincere, God, I want to be of some service today. I don't want to go crazy, God, but just a little bit. It'll bring you an opportunity. It just might be a kind word.
Mhm.
Might be a kind word. Yeah.
All right. That
Right.
was wonderful. Thank you
Yep.
very much.
Thank you.
Oh, hold on. Wrong button.
Can't hold